What's going on, traders? A few things to talk about. We're going to get straight into it. Like, subscribe, comment your thoughts below. Let's get into the video. So, in our last video, we talked about how historically Wednesdays leading into Labor Day weekend are pretty bullish. And crazy enough, the SPY ended up seeing all time highs. Another thing we mentioned in our last video is how historically Fridays leading into Labor Day weekend are pretty bearish. And crazy enough, we saw a decent amount of downside. And so, the question is, what happens historically the week of Labor Day? Well, if we look here, Tuesday after Labor Day, Dow Jones, S&P 500, and the Russell are down 8 straight. Dow Jones is weakest, down 38.1% of the time last 21 years with an average loss of 0.22%. S&P 500 is similarly weak with an average loss of 0.14%. Nasdaq and Russell better last 21 years based upon frequency of gains, but performance still negative. Feel free to pause the video, screenshot this, do what you got to do. And so if we do look at the Nasdaq here, we're pretty much hugging this key level here, which is 23,500. If the Nasdaq fails to hold 23,500, then we're heading towards 23,200, and you definitely want to see 23,000 psych level hold. If we manage to get below 23,000 psych level, then chances are we're heading towards 22,800. Now, it's important to note that the market is closed tomorrow, so I would take whatever the Nasdaq or even the futures market in general is doing after hours with a grain of salt. But it is very much possible that we can head higher here, maybe gather some liquidity, create a lower high before heading back towards the downside. So again, take whatever the futures market is currently doing with a grain of salt. Again, the market is closed tomorrow. If we look at the ES here, our key level is towards the downside, I should say, is 6,450, which we are pretty much holding, right? Another key level towards the upside is 6,500, which is a very strong psych level. But again, we could be creating a lower high here. So take what you see with a grain of salt until we get some more confirmation, either tomorrow's futures market open or Tuesday open. All right. So we can easily do one of these. Hit 6,500 one more time and then break down, and if we cannot hold 6,450 or 6,440, then chances are we're going to head towards this area down here, which we really want to see hold between 6,440 and 6,430, more or less. Now, if we zoom out, as you guys can see, we are trading within this rising wedge. It is very much possible that we can bounce from here. So I'm not saying that we're ready to crash or correct or anything just yet. It's very much possible that we bounce from here, maybe head back towards the upside, possibly hit 6,600 before truly breaking down. All right. So this is something you want to pay attention to. Mark your key levels 6,500, 6,450, 6,440. If we cannot hold those key levels towards the downside, then chances are we're going to see a pretty massive correction. But it's too early to say. We want more confirmation. We look at Bitcoin. Now, Bitcoin, we know it is somewhat of a leading indicator. We can argue that it's a either leading indicator or a lagging indicator, but so far, Bitcoin has pretty much been giving us ideas on what the market is going to do. And so far, Bitcoin has continued to make lower highs. Our key level here is 109K, which we're witnessing Bitcoin constantly reject after hours, right? We look at the weekly time frame here. And one thing you want to pay attention to is if the weekly candle here is going to close below 109K. If this weekly candle closes below 109K, then chances are we're heading towards 104K. Lowest I'm looking at is 100K, between 100K and 98K. So that's what you want to look out for when it comes to downside with Bitcoin. But for now, it's not looking too great, especially if we manage to stay below that 109K level. You see a rejection here, rejection here, rejection here. Now, interesting enough, this past Friday, if we look at quant data, institutions loaded up 15 million worth in call premium here. So I would say, okay, I would argue that they're rolling over their positions because we're constantly seeing VIX calls get loaded, but I would say that they're constantly rolling their positions into October, right? So it just goes to show that Wales institutions don't know exactly when something is going to happen, but they're pretty much playing it safe. So for those of you who are asking me if I'm still in VIX calls, I don't know if you're genuinely asking or trolling. Those, yes, we're still in VIX calls. They are hedge positions. They're not something that's like taken super seriously or anything like that. So if you are genuinely asking, keep in mind that those are hedge positions, and I do plan on rolling those positions over depending on how this week, upcoming trading week goes. So just want to keep that in mind. But again, it's important to note that institutions are loading up a huge amount of VIX calls for the month of October. So that's something you want to pay attention to. Now, another interesting thing that happened is Alibaba news. Well, we saw Nvidia tank on Friday due to this news, right? Now, me personally, I think it goes without saying. I think we could all can agree that Alibaba is not replacing Nvidia in China, right? It can act as a, I guess, I don't know. It could act as a replacement, but it's not going to officially replace Nvidia in the long run, right? I mean, we're witnessing U.S. companies like AMD, MU, Marvell struggle to even keep up with Nvidia. So I highly doubt that this news is going to stick. And this is part of the reason why we witnessed Nvidia tank on Friday and obviously dragging the market down with it. Now, do I think this is going to last long term? Absolutely not. It'll probably blow over by sometime this week, but this is something to keep in mind on the reason why Nvidia was dropping and possibly the overall market was dropping right along with the whole firing of Lisa Cook. Right now, if we do look at Nvidia, interesting enough, Nvidia is below a key level right now. Bitcoin is kind of dropping, but interesting enough, I mean not Bitcoin, Nvidia is below a key level, which is 175, right? And so far, we're somewhat hugging below it, right? But if Nvidia cannot claim 175 all over again, then chances are we're heading towards 172, 170 psych level. Now, as far as a buying opportunity, me personally, I would like Nvidia at 153, 150. I think that's a good dollar cost average. And then the low 130s is another target that I am looking at. Now, you guys know that I go by percentages as well. So if we're talking percentage wise, right, if we're looking at a possible 20% drop on NVIDIA, then we are looking at basically 150, close to 150, between 145, 150. So that is where I plan on dollar cost averaging and adding shares of NVIDIA to my portfolio. And if NVIDIA drops another 20%, then we're looking at like 110, okay? 110, 120. All right. So that's what I'm going to be looking at when it comes to Nvidia as far as investing. All right. So I know a lot of you don't invest, right? I highly encourage it. I especially if you're like in your 30s, 40s, things like that. I highly encourage you start getting into investing. Trading, the beauty about investing is that when you're trading, even if you lose a trade, if you're in the right companies long term, your portfolio is hardly ever going to see red as long as you know how to invest and when to invest, right? So I don't think I've ever seen a red day, right? I've had losing trades, of course, but my portfolio was never red due to the investments that I was in, right? I gave you guys Tesla at 220. Now Tesla is trading in the 300s. I gave you guys Apple at 180. Now Apple is trading at 230, right? I gave you guys Google at 150, 140. Now Google is at 200. And I even alerted Discord members to jump into Intel when it was at the $23 mark. Now Intel is pretty much at what, $27? I don't even This is not even the right ticker symbol, is it? But you guys get the idea. I think it's NTC, yeah. But now Intel is trading close to $24, 24.35. And I do believe Intel is going to see 30s, right? But we invest into this in the $23 range. And if Intel just so happens to revisit $20, then best believe we will be investing more into Intel. So again, I encourage you guys to start looking into investing when the next market correction crash happens or even a decent drop happens, right? You should not be trading 100%, 99% of your portfolio. You just should not be doing that. You should be trading less than 5% of your portfolio, right? So it's always funny. I get trolls that try to call out my losses, but they never talk about my wins, right? But at the end of the day, as long as I'm investing long term, because I do this full time, my portfolio will be perfectly fine. And so this is why I encourage you, especially if you're 30s, 40s, 50s, things like that, to start investing, start looking long term, start planning for your long term. If you're in your 20s, if you're 18, whatever the case may be, you're already investing, you are off to a great start. And I truly think you're going to be a millionaire by the time you're 30. Okay. So that's just my little advice there. But overall, heading into Labor Day week, guys, in conclusion, historically, it's pretty bearish. I will pay attention to Bitcoin, right? I think Bitcoin is going to possibly see more downside. I'm looking at 104K right now, especially if it stays below 109K. NASDAQ, you want to watch at 23,500. ES, you want to watch at 6,450, 6,440, more or less. If it managed to break below those key levels, then chances are we're going to head further down. All right. This is the time where we start looking for opportunities. We don't panic. We look for opportunities to start dollar cost averaging or buying new shares of whatever stock that we're interested in. And yeah, even if you're into crypto, I think crypto is going to present a beautiful opportunity soon. So you might want to take advantage of that. Me, I'm not huge on crypto, but I am starting to invest into Ethereum. Speaking of Ethereum, we'll just knock that out real quick. Speaking of Ethereum, if Ethereum manages to hit 4,000, guys, I do plan on investing again, or dollar cost averaging, I should say. But if Ethereum manages to hit all the way towards 3,000 for whatever reason, I'm hoping that would happen. Can it happen? Sure. Is it likely to happen? No. But if Ethereum manages to get between 2,800 and 3,000, you, I'm going to take that opportunity. You do what you want. I'm going to take that opportunity. I'm going absolutely heavy on Ethereum if it manages to reach 3,000. But for now, my targets was 4,600, 4,000, and 3,000, between 3,000 2,800. So you do what you want with that information. All right. But overall, guys, I hope you guys enjoyed your 3 day weekend. Let me know if you have questions below. Right. Discord link will be in the description below. We plan on crushing it this week, or at least I plan on crushing it this week. And yeah, we'll see what happens. So again, enjoy your weekend. And until the next video, traders, have a good one.